Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today I'm at the Sanhedrin, Daf Chaf Hey. We're going to begin on Chaf Daled Amud Beis by the new Mishnah. Says the Masnisin. Ve'el hein hapois hapsuin. And these are people who are considered Pasal Edis, which is also a Mishnah in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, at the very end of the first parak. Probably the most disproportionate Masechta in Shas is Rosh Hashanah. Chaf Beis is still the first parak, and it's 4 prakim long, and the whole Masechta is just 32 blot. Ve'elhein psulin, the Masach Bekuvia, so someone who's involved in playing, let's say, with dice, or some type of a gambling thing. So Malva Baribas, someone who charges with interest. Mafrichi Yoinim, someone who is involved with birds that are flying. We'll see what that is. V'seicher shvius, and people who engage in business transaction with that which is shmita. Amr Shimon b'chila hayu karnoisa oisve shvius. They used to be called the gatherers of shvius. Misharavu ha'insin chazul ikrois and seicher shvius. They changed the language. So Amr Yehuda Masai. When do I say that these people are pasal? This is umuzman shein lehen umnois. Elahu. This is all they do. This is their number one occupation, the only way they make money. If they have other forms of occupation, that's kosher. So, it doesn't necessarily mean a person just goes to Las Vegas once a year or goes gambles with a couple of their friends. So, certainly Rabbi Huda would say that person's a kosher. The question is, does it mean anyone who is Masach B'Kuvya at all? So it gets a little bit confusing exactly what that means. Let's look at Rashi. So what is Masach B'Kuvya? So to explain the Gemara, B'Kuan Mein Gazlonim Hein. Rashi says because it's a form of stealing. The Torah says in Shmos, Al Tesh Rosh Aid, Kol Shekin Dayin. A person who's a Rasha can't be a witness, certainly can't be a judge. So it says She'en Lo Umnos Elahu. It says Rashi, Dohoyel V'Ein Asukin bi Yeshuva Shel Olam. This person is not involved in any matters of improving the world. In Bekian Bativ Dinim, they obviously don't know much about laws. Umasamata and business transaction. In Yori Chait, and they don't fear God. Very interesting. Okay, says the Gemara. So Masach B'Kuvya Ma'ikovid. What exactly is this guy doing so bad? So we've had this term numerous places. Smachta, says Rashi, Hainu davar sheinu naisin lo medaito. It's not something which he really anticipates. Elo saimich al davar sheinoi. He's expecting something, hopefully in his favor, which doesn't turn out in his favor. The savar shehu yochel natzech. He thinks he's going to win. Upamim shemenatzkanoi. And sometimes Yitaka does win. Lukanya v'havile kein gazel biyadai. So the fact is that if I gamble, so therefore I think I'm going to win, and therefore if I lose, I'm not really saimich on that, and therefore now that you take my money out of my hands, so that becomes problematic. So some people say, based on this Rashi, that if let's say you're gambling with chips and you put money in the middle, so it's key, like once you put it in the middle, that's it. It's you think maybe you're going to win, but maybe if you don't win, it's not biyadai. Okay, it's not so pashut, but that's perhaps the idea. So Rav Sheshes Aimer Kol Ki Agav No Lav Asmachtahi. This is not a case of an asmachta of our Mishnah, because an asmachta is when a person at least thinks there's a chance they're going to win. Says Rashi, Avahachal Lois Samach Hamidi. You're not saimich that you may win. It's all chance. The Halayada in Natzach Ilo Natzach. Vavil Hachi Asti Shma Minam Mesveka Asni Gomer Va'achni Lo Exelhi. So basically the idea is, let's say it's a case of a roulette wheel, right? So you put your money on certain numbers. You don't actually think you're going to win. You hope you're going to win, but you also know there's a very good chance you're going to lose because it's not in your hands to win. So again, this is an interesting question. If let's say it's more of a skills game, like some people may think, like you play poker, Texas Hold'em, so people think, oh, it's a skill, it's not luck. Of course it's luck, but some people would rationalize it in that way. Okay. So why Taka is this person possibly? Because instead of being Isaac and thing of being business and just a normal business dealings or normal life, you're not involved in yeshiva shalaylam. If you at least learn and know some other trade. And I understand that this Gemara for sure is talking to a person that literally all they do is they go from city to city. They're part of these tournaments, and you could be part of a tournament and be playing for a few days. It's unbelievable. And they go from there to there, and most of them don't have a life. Pashut. It's sad, but they don't have family, they don't have children, they don't have a wife. I mean, maybe one or two of them do, but they're loners. They're all alone, and they travel from one city to the next, all throughout the world. And it seems like a glorious thing. Some of them are successful, but when it comes to gambling, most people aren't. That's why casinos are beautifully built. It's not based on the success of people winning. It's the casino that wins. So it's a terrible, terrible addiction, which is also part of the notion of, again, a gazlan just trying to take something which doesn't belong to him. So that's the person, like, it's a mindset. You think that you have the ability to take things from others. Anyway, so such a person we don't want to be a dayan. Okay, let's look at question 8. Mehem atamim the masachem bekuv yaposel lidoin lohayid ma nafgimina. So either it's a smachta loikano, or because he's not oisig with shiva shalaylam kasheshul umnois acheres. As the nafkamina. Okay, weiter. So Tanan, this is Leisa b'Mishnah. So it's probably not Tanan. It is our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda must have been. It says on the side, Ditanan. Rabbi Yehuda must have been shein lehen umnois. Elhu. Av yeshen umnois shalohu harizek shem alma time the masnisim mishum yeshuva shalaylam. So Kasha or Merchama. Our Mishnah sounds very clear, like what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. It's totally on Yeshiva Shalaylam. So why does Ram Merchama say it's because of a smachta? The V'chitema Pog Rabbanon Lehad Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe that's Tachal Machlokas. The Rabbanon hold it's a smach. The Rabbi Yehuda holds it's because of Yeshiva Shalaylam. The Yomi Rabbi Shimon Levi Kol Makom Shem Rabbi Yehuda Yemosai. As we continue to Chav Hey Amadal. If anyone hear the word Yemosai, when do we say this? It's just to explain the words of the Chachamim. So it can't be that they just totally disagree on two separate cases or two separate reasons. Rabbi Yochanan Aimer Amosai lefarish. The word Amosai is to explain. Everyone holds the Amosai is just to explain. So therefore, the fact that he says Amosai is lefarish, therefore you can't say the Chachamim aren't holding because of the issue of Shalayim. So Gaber Karamas. Marsav a pligi, Marsav a lo pligi. You can't argue. That's says Rashi. Rabbi Shimon Levi or Rabbi Merchama Savri Mosai. Rabbi Yehuda l'chalik ba. Maybe he taka holds the Mosai is to dispute. The lo pligi v'sanya ben sheishlom nois hu shaloi hu ben shalom nois elohu haris apostle. He's always apostle, no matter what. Now he Rabbi Yehuda Mishim Rab Tarfin he. The son of Yehuda Leimer Mishim Rab Tarfin, who's the name of Rab Tarfin. Lo'elam einechem mehem nazir lefi shlo nosna nazirus el lahaflah. So what is this talking about? So Rashi reminds us in Nazir, which we'll be getting to at one point. Shnayim yoishvin ve'echad oiver. So you have two people that are sitting, and there's one person passing by. Zelimer Pliny oiver nazir. This guy who's coming near us, he's a nazir. Zelimer eno, he's not. V'yomer echad hareini nazir im kamaisuhu shu nazir. Cheber oimer hareini nazir im kamaisuhu she'enu nazir. V'shneim mischavonim nazirus. They say, if this guy's a nazir, I'm a nazir. If he's not a nazir, I'll be a nazir. So one way or the other, one of these two people is a nazir. Obviously, it turns out one of the ways. They're not a nazir. Why? They only said this out of doubt. It has to be that when you make the declaration, it is something which is baruch shemesh. However, when you said it, you weren't sure whether you will become a nazir or not. Almor of Tarfin, the chitoi tana b'midi delav biyadei v'yadalo. Whenever you have something which is not in your hands, you don't know what's going to happen. Feel hachi havi v'yasmachta v'amrinan misveik gomer v'achni. So in that situation, it's called an asmachta, and we don't say that misveik gomer v'achni. So therefore, this is the same idea of a situation of suffix, like am I going to win, or am I not going to lose, or am I going to lose, etc. Malva beribis, I'm a Rava, loiva beribis, if you borrow money with ribis pasal edis. I have an antanan malva beribis, lending. So malva haba beribis, a loan which comes with ribis. Bar benitus bar benisum sus, which I'm assuming is a name over here. Asidu be Trace Sahadi. They testified with two witnesses. Chad Omer Kamedi Di Oizif Berevisa. One said in front of me, barred with ribis. Chad Omer Ladidi Yosvi Berevisa. So possibly Rabu Labar Benisum Sus. So he ended up apostling him for being involved in ribis. I have a Rabbi Hudi Omer Leiva Beribis Pasal Edis. Vahavile Russia, Vatar Imral Tashis Russia, Vatar Imral Tashis Russia 8. I understand. So this guy testified about two people. One said in front of me he barred ribis. The other one said in front of me he barred ribis. Then Rabbi apostled based on his testimony. But understand, if he was basically saying that he was involved in ribis, he should be postulatus. Rabbi Tamedi, Rabbi Adam Karveitel Atzma, and Adam Mesam Atzma Russia. He doesn't have the ability to be able to testify against himself. And therefore, because of that, he's not going to be believed to say that he actually was involved in ribis. So therefore, he's still a kosher aid to based on them. Okay. Says Rashi, "Beperakam adena adam mesam atzma enu yochol lifsol atzmo al piv. Daha ein kar meid lo zochas lo chayva. Adam kar beitzel atzmai." Okay. Who's tabcha? There was this butcher. The shtakach was found. The nafka trefosa metute yade. That there was a treif that used to come underneath his hands. There was non-kosher meat. So possibly Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman pasoled him based on edus that this is what he was doing. The Avra, they removed the shchita. Ozol Rabbi Mazia v'torfe. So all of a sudden, Rabbi grew his hair and his nails. It says Rashi, when Naval Atzmo Lasos Teshuva. He had him. He was growing his nails like he was doing tshuva. Sabar Rav Nachman lachshure. They thought, you know what? Maybe we should make him kosher because he's doing tshuva. So Amrulay Rava Dilma Arumi Kamari. Maybe he's just trying to trick us that he did tshuva. Elamai Tekante. What's that the kind of know that he's authentic? Could Rav Idi Baravin. Diam Rav Idi Baravin. Hachoshad al Trefis. If you have someone who's choshad of Trefis, Eno Tekana ad Shiel Chamacham Shein Makirin Iso, until he goes to a place in which no one knows him. Yachsir Aveda B'davar Choshev. And you return an object which is of davar choshev. Says Rashi, Im Yimsa Avedas Chaveda. If he finds a lost object, Kivan da Machsir Avedahu Vadi Hoder Be Mechemas Mamoin. Why a person would otherwise keep this because I found it. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. That was what a person who has chemdas mamoin would do, right? So therefore, or shiatzim treva matachashada b'davar choshev mishalo. If he has an expensive piece of meat, and he says no, it's treif. So then you see, obviously he did tshuva. So by testing him, by seeing that he was actually able to withstand in the sayon of money, because the reason why he said, oh, it's kosher when it was really treif, because he didn't want to lose money, because of chemdas mammon. So that's how you can test the guy. Okay. And then the Mishnah said mafrichi yoinim, which we usually think like birds that are flying and involved in some type of cockfights. So my mafrichi yoinim. So hachar terguma. So this is the explanation. If your bird beats my bird. So basically, then says Rashi, that I'm going to give you this amount of money. So it's like some type of almost like a horse race, but with birds. Rabbi Chama ba'oisha omer ara. So what does that mean? Says Rashi, Maloimed, you teach this pigeon, Lahavi yoinim imkaiman, to bring other birds from their place, l'beis balam to you, al karchan yesh mehen gezel. So you're stealing the birds. Basically, you're drawing birds to you. So what happened is that you train a bird to be able to go into, let's say, someone's property and fly it around, and all of a sudden it draws all the other birds to your property, so you're stealing. So mandir mer I takdama yanchal yaini maitam ara. Why doesn't he say this whole notion of your bird getting other birds? That when it comes to this, it's really darchei shalom ba'olim. It's not really stealing. It says Rashi, in Chulin, toward the end of the Masechta, Yomi shuvuch v'yomi aliyah. When it comes to these dove cuts, yesh behen gezem darchei shalom. It's only considered to be a form of stealing because of darchei shalom. That we don't want you to start doing this and causing problems with your neighbors. However, says Rashi, well, gezel gomer. It's not really gezel. Basically, these birds are flying in, they're flying out, so it's not like you really own these birds. Birds can fly into your property, then go off of your property. So therefore, it's not really Ikra Hadin Gezel, and therefore we don't want to use this as an example. Why does it use that example about either bird fights or bird races? It's the same thing as a form of gambling. You're gambling, playing blackjack or the horses. It's right. You're gambling on sports. It's the same thing basically. The idach tana toyel b'das atzma v'tana toyel b'das yainai. So one is that you think you have some type of a skill when you're like rolling the dice, you blow it, you shake it, whatever it is, and the other one is based on an animal. And you think, well, why can't you learn on from the other? Over here, you really believe in yourself. As we continue in Kuf Chav Hayam with Beis, because the person will say, Kimli Benavshe, I am confident, the Adana Tve, I know I'll win, I know how to play better than him. So it's like, I'm going to play high stakes Texas Hold'em, no limit poker, so I know how to play better than him. It's a skill game. So therefore, in your mind, that's maybe a bigger problem of a smachta. It's just some bird. You can say, well, what does that have to do with me? If this bird wins or loses, there's no way I'm going to know if that's going to happen. So you're not really samech das that you're going to win, because you know it's not biyadai. The yoimer, you can say, Benaksha milsa. It depends on noise and banging, which is funny. Ve'ana yodana when kushi tvei. I know how to bang better. Like you see people at the horse races, they're screaming and yelling. So you think that if you're there and you're yelling and you're supporting, right, or you go to some people think who are like sports fans, if I go to the game, there's a better chance they're going to win because I'm going to support them, I'm going to be there. So you can actually rationalize even outside of yourself that you think that it's actually part of your participation is going to actually make a difference. These are examples. Someone who plays with like wooden cubes. Not just wooden cubes. Even if, let's say, you're using different shells of pomegranates and nuts, and you like use them to roll, kind of again like you're playing craps or something, or trying to get a 7 or 11. The Amosai Chazrasan. So how does a person do tshuva from this? Mishiyishbru es pispasehen. If he breaks these wooden cubes that he plays with v'yasabehen chazar gemura. Defilu bechinam lo'avdi. It's basically saying that he's going to no longer play at all. Even bechinam. He's not going to play even without money. He doesn't enjoy the activity at all. So malva baribas echad hamalva echad halayve. Whether you're the borrower or the lender is a problem. Yamasei chazarasan. So when you do tshuva, mishiyikra shitrehem, when you rip up the star, yasmehen chazar gemura, And when Chazar Gemura, I feel a nachri loy moisvi. You don't even want to lend to a nachri, which is interesting. This happens when you're involved in gambling or some type of addiction. It's not enough just to stop cold turkey or stop. You have to do the opposite. You have to be more extreme on the opposite way, because you could lend to a nachri, but when you already show that you have this desire to lend baribus, you have to distance yourself even further. These are people that are involved again with these doves, these birds. Says on the side of the girsa, lashon moira koimer molamdin oiso lefroyach lahachtam liyonim acherim. You teach them how to run faster, or to kill another bird. It could be any animal. So when does tshuva? Mishiyishbrues pigmehen. When you break the boards that you use for banging. Even in the midbar, says Rashi, there's no birds there. Tiyisha v'hai pirusha lishna di ara nakitlei v'omagafa de brisa. So basically, v'omagufa de brisa. So this sounds, at least according to the first shot in Rashi, that we're talking about a case of the issue is training a bird to take birds from other properties. So even to have such a bird, and even in the midbar where there's no birds where you can take them from, because either they're hefker completely or there's just no birds around. So in that situation, it's a chazar gemura. Seicher Shvius, people involved in Shemitah, Elu Shenaisim Naisim Bepedes Shvius, they're involved in business transactions with on Shemitah year. V'yamasech Hazarasan, Mishatagir Shvius Acheres Diabalu. When another Shvius comes, then they don't do any of those things. So usually this is a tshuva gemura, is when you're confronted with the exact same thing, but you don't do the same thing. V'yamar Rav Nechemia Lo Chazaras Devarim Bavad Amru Ella Chazaras Momoin, the returning of money. Ketzad Aimer, a person says, I need Pliny bar Pliny, I'm so and so that Kinasti Mosayim Zuz, I earned 200 Zuz, Beper Shvius, Vaharihin Nesunim B'matana Laniyim, I'm going to give it as a gift to the poor. Katani mi is, what do we learn? Behema, an animal. Now Bishul Momani Yomer Tekadmi Yain Chel Yain so I can understand you can train a horse to be the fastest horse. So it makes sense, an animal, just like a bird. Bird fights, or animals fighting, or animals racing. I understand an animal isn't involved in attracting other animals. Says Rashi, Shetavi behemois habar labaisa. Understand, it's how is this animal involved in gathering others? So the answer is in Bashar Havar. When it comes to a wild ox, that's in fact what could possibly happen. Well, a wild ox can attract other animals. The Kamadi Bashar Havar min behemahu. That is actually considered to be a domesticated animal. Denan Shar Havar min behemahu. Rabbi Yossi Omer min Chai, it's actually a wild animal. Okay. Tana hoisifu lehen. They added to this list of our Mishnah of those who are apostolatus hagazlanim, people who are thieves, as well as v'dach masanin, those people who force others to sell their property. Now gazlan deraisu. What do you mean? That's a din deraisu. So why is that even in the Mishnah? Obviously, you're apostolatus. Well, this is el matzias chershad v'katan, that you stole something from a chershad v'katan, because mikar savar matzias chershad v'katan. If you have an object that was found and you basically stole it because you kept it, lo shchicha, that's not something which is common. Inam imnidar cheshal be'alma kivada chosad to saif v'manahu. You're taking money, paslin hu rabbanon. We're going to say, you know what? No, that will passel. Originally, we thought, this is not a milsa shchiach, so why should we even include this in an extended list? But the truth is, it does happen, and therefore we'll passel for that. And then the Mishnah, the other case was hachamsonin. So when it comes to a chamson, which is people who grab or force sale, Mikar Sav originally thought Damika Yoiv. At least he's paying with money. So he's just like pushing him along. We see he grabs the object away first, then he gives money afterwards. Tana. We also added shepherds, hagaboyim, vahamuksin, and different tax collectors. They're also now added onto this list. So royin, the shepherds, that this happens that the animals just happen to chance on other people's fields. But they noticed that the shepherds are actually deliberately putting these animals in these areas, and therefore they were geyser. Okay, hagaboyim v'hamuchsin, these tax collectors, mikar savar madikaitzel kashakli, that the tax collectors, what's wrong? They're just doing their job, right? There's a set amount of taxes that they have to collect. So, but we saw that they are taking more than they were supposed to, and therefore we apostle. Raya Sha'amru, when we're talking about a shepherd, it doesn't matter if it's a big or small animal, that shepherd is apostle. So even though you would think, well, maybe only certain animals are involved in grazing, we apostle any shepherd. That when it comes to a roy behemadaka, a small animal in Eretz Yisrael is apostle, but chutzl aretz ksherin. However, in chutz aretz is kosher. So roy behemagasa feel Eretz Yisrael ksherin. So we see that in fact you should allow a shepherd with a behemagasa because he's kosher. So why would you say he's apostle? So hahu b'megadlan. So this has to do with raising them. They raise them in their home, which is not the same as shepherds, who are always outside by fields, even by the behemagasa, he's apostle. So that's the difference. Says Rashi, Eretz Yisrael, the behemadaka is not allowed. Gasa not, right? Because as Rashi says, you could have guarded it. When it comes to a shepherd, we say, I feel behemagasa apostle, because it goes into other people's fields. So it's very interesting. It's a profession of apostle, which is unbelievable because we find the greatest tzaddikim, David HaMelech, Moshe Rabbeinu, Yaakov Avinu, they're shepherds. They're all shepherds, right? It was like seemingly the most honorable thing to do. Nonetheless, we see now their people are apostolatus. Itmar, b'megadlam Itmar. Hakana Mistabr. So our Mishnah said, you know what? I'll let your father be a judge, which is the only apostle. I'll let a shepherd be a judge. Now, why do they say it that way? My lav la'edus, right? And we see this apostolatus lo ladina, that they should be a judge. They're going to have an entani shloisha roi bakar. Now, why say three? V'i la'edus shloisha lamli. Why three? Delama ladina. You want to tell me it's din? So my ear shloisha roi bakar. Kolbe tlasadoi gamer dina nami. Any three people that don't learn, that didn't know also. So hachikamer. Afilu hani deloi shchichi b'yishuv. Even these shepherds who are not constantly found in the yishuv. Okay. Says Rashi, v'lo ro. These shepherds do not see v'shomu. Don't see iski din. They have no shaykhs to business. Bein adam chavero. So he kablinhu alayhu lo matzil mahader. So he said those people you can accept and you won't retract. So it's not talking about necessarily people who are apostle, but the idea is that these are people that just were uneducated because they were not in the yishuv. They were basically out in the nowhere land, and they basically were loners just taking care of animals. So that's the reason why the chiddush was that they could be judges if both parties agree with it. Or maybe who the stam roy apostle, a regular, just a plain old shepherd is apostle. Stam gabai kosher. However, gabai, which is collector again, usually of funds, is a kosher. Avud Rav Zera Ovid Gavyasa Tliaser Shnin. He was a tax collector for 13 years. He havi asu reish naharo lamasa. When we get to the city, he havi chazer rabban. He would see the rabbanim leichimi, go with me, ba b'chedrecha, and go hide in your rooms. Says Rashi. Deloi nechzena bach reish nahara. I don't want the person who's in charge of the river to see you. Shu sar ir voroya sharabi b'yishve ir. He'll see all the people. The show moment harbi. He's gonna ask for a lot of money. He'll chol shani shir. Who hoya make a lame, want to be lenient with the tax. Madachas sar ha'ir loimer shoyshve hamuativ in memilig voice. Basically, he'll say, I'm sorry, there's not a lot of people to collect here. Look, there's no one around. But the truth is, they were there, they were just in hiding. So he was doing it to save people money. When they would see him, says Rashi, Yishchait es ha'av lifnei ben, klomer yigva mehen mamoin. They would take a lot of money. Okay, and let's continue to Chav Vav Aleph. Mignazu kuli alma, and basically everyone was hiding. Kiyasi, when he came, or Malay Maman Navoy, there's no one here to collect taxes from. Ki nicha navshi, when he died, Malay Shekoylo Toliaser Meyai Detsarili Bitsidonoi. You're going to take my 13 coins that are wrapped up in this kerchief, v'hadu le'laplani, and give it back to such and such a person, d'shaklinhu minei, that I took it for taxes, v'lo its tarichu li, but I did not need his taxes. So it shows that he actually made a very fine accounting to make sure that everything he took was legitimate. So there were exceptions of great people who were tax collectors, including Avud Reb Zera, but nonetheless, this is not a typical situation. Most of them, unfortunately, were involved in some form of theft. Okay, question 9. My mafriach yoinim hacha tirgma idekam yoini or ara. So man diamer, one bird goes faster than another. Why does he say like the other one? Why not that one? So if you want to tell me that it was like a bird race, he didn't want to say ara because one is a case of it's not gezel, it's darche sholim. The one who said ara didn't say the bird race because he said it's the same thing as mechsach b'kuvya. Question 10. Megali behemas bebatehem ha'im psulin le'edus. So megali behema daka b'Eretz Yisrael possible b'chutzor it's kosher. And behema gas even Eretz Yisrael is kosher. It's because you can watch it. So behema gas is kosher in Eretz Yisrael, and behema daka b'Eretz Yisrael is possible, but chutzor is kosher. So basically, it's always kosher unless we're dealing with a behema daka in Eretz Yisrael, but a behema gasa is kosher, and a behema daka in Chutz La'aretz is also kosher. Okay, we didn't do question 11. Let's see some more questions. TA 4. At what point can someone who charges interest, where do we see and know that this person has done tshuva? So that's on Chav Hayim and Beis. So we did Malva Beribis, that's Sarchah Shvius. So Malva Beribis, so we said when it's a Malva or Loiva, so when does Mishiyikresh Shetrehem? He rips up his star, and the tshuva Gemara is a field for Nachri Lo Moisvi. That's TA 4. I got it only half right. Let's see. I'm not sure what I missed. But the answer is you rip up the star. And again, it's even for a nachri. So I guess I didn't write the part about ripping up a star. Okay, that's it for question TA. TB4. Mehematama Masach Bakuvya Psula Ladoin Lahayid. What's the nafkin between them? So that we saw already on Chav Daled and Beis, which is TB4, which is the same thing as question 8. So I wrote Omishum smachta lo kanyo memeshu enu min yishuv rak yoshev u'batav v'nachmin im yesh umniyos acher chutz mezu yachshav hu oisik b'yishuv aretz. Okay. Question TB5 Megalu behemas bebatehem Ha'im Sulun La'edus, which is the same question as question 10. This is TB 5. Rak behema daka Be'eretz Yisrael is Pasal Edus. Avo behema gasa ksherul Edus. V'chutz la'aretz bein behema gasa bein behema daka is kosher la'edus. It's a very well answered question. Ad Khan.